You ever had something that shouldn't impact you just kind of sit with you and kind of push on you and irritate you and make you wonder what's the solution? For me, it's been the election of the mayor of New York and the primary nomination of a guy in Michigan. I don't know a lot about it. I couldn't even, Mondami, I guess, is the guy in New York, but I can't even say the name of the other guy. In fact, I haven't even read about it. My wife just read, there's this real racist, nationalist, nasty hellfire evangelist in our area who, I'm trying to think of a way to appropriately say this in a way that I can say out loud. Anyway, this guy is in love, nearly worshipful of Donald Trump. This is a guy that, in my childhood, he would have preached and taught against everything that I don't want to be political, and I can't help it. We live in this time where there's just the political tension is so nasty and strong. Anyway, we're in this series, Red Letter series, where we're looking at what Jesus is recorded to have said. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that this is perfect, that they nailed down exactly everything Jesus said. I'm not naive enough to think that we're going to read it perfectly, but that's what we do. That's what we've been doing for over a year now. We're reading the red letters. We're just looking at what Jesus said. And this morning, between the time my wife mentioned the nasty, hateful, racist stuff about this, I guess it was a nomination for Senate or how, I don't know, but somebody in Michigan was nominated who had a name that she said, and it sounded, made me assume this was an Islamic person, but that's just stereotyping based on names. So who knows? I don't have a clue. But of course, this racist nationalist evangelist said all of this nasty stuff about the guy. And I haven't read it, so maybe he didn't say that much of nasty stuff. But anyway, what he said was, this is a shame that this guy's been nominated. But he said the same stuff about the mayor of New York, and it's fear-based, right? And so this morning, between my wife reading that and me coming to record this video, my mind started thinking about Islam and the Quran. And I thought, I don't really know enough about what the Quran teaches. I don't know what it's about. And so that went through my mind as I was coming to read these questions to you about what we'll talk about this coming Sunday. And when I sat down to read this, I went, oh, maybe this is God, the Spirit, universe, whatever, kind of putting to me the thought that maybe a leprosy today, something similar, common like leprosy today, might just be having an Arabic sounding name or understanding or having some history in Islam, or maybe reading the Quran, or maybe growing up with the Quran. Maybe that's almost as untouchable today as leprosy was then. Anyway, that's what goes through my mind. You're going to see these questions. You're going to know that I've been thinking about these questions for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, maybe 10 days. I don't know, maybe a couple weeks. These thoughts have been coming, through my mind because we're going to read this text. Okay, let's read the text now. The text says, when Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, make me clean. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. Immediately he was cleansed of leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them. Had Jesus been healing people on the mountain? Matthew does not record Jesus healing anyone during the Sermon on the Mount itself. Matthew 5-7 contains teaching. The healing of the man with the skin disease is the first miracle Matthew narrates. We'll talk about more about this Sunday, but I just wanted to get the questions out there, right? Is there any significance to the timing of Jesus' healing of the man with leprosy? What exactly is leprosy, or was leprosy? I don't think it was a single thing. I think it was just a common term for any people with some kind of skin disease, right? And there's all kinds of pictures and stuff. We've read where Jesus healed without touch. So what do you think the significance of touch is in this miracle? Well, in Leviticus, it talks about a leprous person screaming, unclean, unclean, so that people could stay away from this person and not touch them. They feared that it transmitted through touch. Leprosy was socially and religiously excluding. What's excluding today like leprosy was then? What if it's you've heard those studies they do where somebody's interviewing, or they put their name on a resume, and if the resume name sounds like a Black or African American person, it negatively impacts their ability to get a job. Imagine having a name that sounds Islamic or Arabic. I wonder if that's kind of like leprosy in America today. That meant the man was not only suffering physically, he likely had experienced some combination of isolation, public shame, exclusion from worship, loss of ordinary relationships, fear of others, and deprivation of normal human contact. You ever been away and your loved ones just want a hug? They need that normal human contact. What would condemn someone today similar to touching a person with leprosy did then? Why do you think Jesus told him not to tell? Why might Jesus have wanted to prevent growing crowds from interfering with his ability to teach and travel? I wonder if Jesus might have just been aware of the fact that he had touched this man. Would that act would have caused people to shy away from him? Would that have negatively impacted his ability to do ministry? Why might Jesus have wanted to prevent growing crowds from interfering with his ability to teach and travel? Why would Jesus want people to focus on his message rather than only his miracles? How could publicizing the healing have created premature or mistaken expectations about Jesus as Messiah? What does Jesus' command to remain silent teach us about humility and avoiding self-promotion? Why was it important for the healed man to obey Jesus by going to the priest before telling others what had happened? Who are the people today whom society keeps at a safe distance, not because they're dangerous, but because their illness, poverty, appearance, or condition makes us uncomfortable? What would it look like for Christians to reach out and touch people living with homelessness, HIV, severe mental disability, severe mental illness, disability, or disfigurement, while respecting healthy boundaries and practical wisdom. What about reaching out to people with Islamic backgrounds? What about people who read the Quran? What about people with Islamic sounding names? What about people across the political aisle from you? How often do we define people by the condition that isolates them? The homeless person, the addict, the mentally ill, rather than seeing the whole person Jesus would see. I'm pondering, and I'm curious, would you comment if this would interest you? I'm pondering in 2027, spending some time as we go through whatever we're going through in the red words, the red letters of Christ. I'm pondering taking some time each week and connecting or taking a little passage from the Quran, whatever, the Islamic text, right? And comparing and thinking about what it says. I have read before that the Bible has more violent acts, more acts of violence than the Quran. Is that true? Does the Quran have violence? Does the Quran teach mercy? Does it have judgment? Does it have nastiness? Or is it less violent than the Bible in that regard? These are the things we'll talk about this Sunday at A Place to Talk, and we will discuss whether or not we do some conversation about the Quran next year in our talks as we continue to look at the words of Jesus. Thanks. If you have any questions, reach out, but please comment below if a study of or understanding of or a little more information about the Quran would be something that would interest you in 2027.